Okay, back to the confidence interval. We had our instructor who graded our first officer and the captain during an LOE. And we also deduced in the last session the formula for the standard error and the formulas for our confidence intervals, the upper and the lower limit of the confidence interval. Now let's assume in this example that our first officer achieved 65 points on a T-scale and our captain 49 points on the T-scale. And we want to assume that we have a rater reliability of 0.8. Now this immediately allows us to compute the standard error. In this example, the standard error is 4.5. And if we have the standard error, we can see that we are immediately able to compute the confidence intervals for the captain and first officer. For the first officer, the upper limit is 73.8. And the lower limit of the confidence interval of our first officer in this example is 56.2. And we apply the same logic for our captain. The upper limit for our captain is 57.8, and the lower limit of the confidence interval for our captain in this example is 40.2. Now, what does it mean in terms of average or above average or below average performance? To answer these questions, I would like to draw a T-scale here. Some values. The expected value on a T-scale is 50. One deviation above is 60 and one standard deviation below is 40. Now, if we have a confidence interval which is completely above 60, we call the performance above average, like it is shown here, if it is completely above 60. If the confidence interval falls completely below 40, we call the performance below average. And if the confidence interval is between 40 and 60, we call the performance average. So what does it mean now for our first officer? What achieved our first officer? He has between 56 and 74, more or less, like it is shown here. And this is what we typically call average to above average, because the confidence interval does not fall completely above 60. That is why we call this average to above average. And for our pilot, we have this situation, 40 to 57.8, and this is what we call average performance. So the pilot has a performance which is called average, and the first officer has a performance which we call average to above average.